Okay, I had a bit of a nightmare this week. My return pump decided to turn itself off. It just randomly just stopped for some reason. The controller went red. I tried to turn it back on and it kept turning itself off. But I don't know how long it was off for. It must have been a couple of hours because the temperature in the main display had just dropped. And the return pump is the most important bit of equipment in my tank just because it draws water from the main display into the sump. It goes past the heater, gets heated up, and then comes up into the main display. But stupidly, I had my probe down in my sump. So I didn't get any alarms, no text messages, no alarms were going off because my temperature still said 25 degrees, but the main display was probably about 24. Okay, what I had to do is I took the pump out, I gave it a good old clean, and still I tried to turn it on. It was a red flashing light and it was just turning itself off and it wasn't doing anything. So I had to go to work. So I scrapped the Ecotech return pump. I just got it off the system as quickly as I could. And then I used my little pump that I use for my reactor and my UV. I moved that across to where the return pump goes, and it was just strong enough to move water from the sump to the main display, just so I could get the water moving through the system, past the heater, and back into the main display. If I didn't get that back online, it would have been a nightmare. I'd had to have put a heater in the main display, and it would have been a lot worse. But luckily, the little pump that I've got here was enough to power this whole system for a couple of days until I got my new pump. And that's what you need to do. You always need to make sure that you have a spare pump on hand for these sort of emergencies, because this could have gone horribly wrong. I mean, if I was away on my 12-hour shift when my return pump went off, this with the temperature it is in the UK, my whole system could have dropped maybe 4 or 5 degrees, and all my corals could have been wiped out by that. I don't understand why the pump, Ecotech pump as well, would just turn itself off like that. But yeah, that was a lucky escape. All the corals seem absolutely fine. It's been a couple of days now. I've got the new pump on. Okay, this is the little pump that I had running the system. It looks quite big because of the plastic housing, but it's only a 3,000 litre pump. And that was just strong enough to run the whole system. So I had to take my UV off because I had to turn that off. And the pump that I went for is another one of those. It's an Aquamedic pump, Eco Runner. And that's the controller for it. It's up at 100%. But yeah, I really rate these pumps. These pumps have always worked for me. I mean, this little pump here has been running for about 8 years solidly, and it's never stopped. It's really quiet. It's never given me any trouble. So basically, I just got another one of those, and that's sitting in there at the moment. And that's a 5,000 litre one, so it's just a bigger model, and it's just soft plumbed up into the hard plumbing, and then that's just going back up into my display. But it's about £200 cheaper than Ecotech, and it's even quieter as well. And I've never had any problems with the Aquamedic. So, I think I'm going to stick with that return pump. Why they still make those. Okay, another bit of kit that's working really well at the moment is I've got my Ocean Sea Wave up and running, and that's turning all the way round to this pane of glass, and it pushes the water along that glass down in front of the front panel, and then it goes underneath the rocks, and it's just moving all the detritus up into the overflow. That's doing a really good job. That's just a Nero 5 on there, and that's creating such a good water flow in my tank at the moment. Okay, the other bits of equipment that I've got in my tank, I've got a roller filter from Clarity. That's the Gen 3, and that's done a great job. Yeah, really like the roller filters. And there's a little valve down the bottom that you can release some of the flow through so you don't burn through the rolls so quickly. And my rolls probably 2.5 months to 3 months I get per roll. And then it goes into my Deltec skimmer. Is awesome. I've always had a Deltec skimmer. I had a 600 before, and this one's the 1000. And it just does what it's supposed to do. Every week it collects lots of gunk at the top there. You can see that it's perfect there. And why it's sitting right next to the roller filter is because of that valve that I've got. It pushes water straight into the skimmer, and then it comes out here. You can see the amount of water it generates, goes over my bio balls, the biomedia, and then the live rock. There's the little return pump, and then it goes over the baffle, and I've got a sponge in there, and I can put some filter floss on that as well, just to polish the water a little bit better. Aquamedic pump that I've got down there is just circulating the sump water. So at the moment I've got nothing on these two, but I've got them open just so the water flows through. And I've got this bit open here, which just pushes water down onto the bottom there. And that's where my dosing lines go in. Without this pump going, I didn't realize that the build-up that you get from the dosing fluid that I'm putting in, it just built up there. So with that on, it didn't do that. It obviously mixes in the sump a lot better. The other thing is that's the probe. There's the heater probe in the sump. So I'm going to move that guy up into the main display. I've definitely learnt my lesson from that. And here's the equipment cupboard. You can see I'm still using Reef Elements. It's 2-part dosing. I'm using the pH Plus at night. There's the new pump controller. It's on at 100%. Then I've got my pH monitor above that and my temperature probe. So that temperature probe didn't move. It stayed at 25 degrees because of that probe in the sump. Yeah, it needs to be moved up into the main display. And then I will get a text if there's any drop in temperature. The Ecotech Versa dosing pumps, they've been pretty good and they've been very reliable. I use the top one for my ATO, so that's taken water from my reef can that's over here, and that just draws water from that and just moves it into the sump. Okay, it's nearly time to feed the fish. You can see I've got some food there, just defrosting. Okay, this time I've left the pumps on just so you can see the flow that I've got going in my tank. Create a bit of a snowstorm there for the fish. The copper band still seems to be dealing with it quite well. You can see the copper band picking up the mysis shrimp that it wants. But you can see how quickly the food was all over the tank. You can see where the ocean sea wave is pushing and keeping all the food expended in the water. You know, nothing's on the surface. And I really like the Ecotech products. You can see I've got 2 MP40s, the wave makers on there, and I've also got 3 of the lights. Okay, let's talk about the lights. I've got 3 Ecotech Gen 5 Pros. They're the 30s, and I've had them running for a while on this tank now, and they do a really good job at growing coral, as you can see here. I do have the diffusers on them. It just helps a little bit with the glare from the tank. You can see that, especially as it's getting darker, it really does help. It's just a couple of mil, and that makes a big difference. So I've put that back on, and that's much better. It's on the rail as well. And why I've got them mounted like this is this one here is like front to back. This one's going lengthways in the tank, and this one's front to back as well. It just gives it just a bit more spread and overlap for the corals as well. Okay, here is my RO unit. You can see here the TDS coming into the house is 259. So that's it coming in. So I'll make it go through the actual unit and we can get that down. You see that start dropping quite significantly in a minute. I've got 2 sediment filters there, and then 2 carbon filters in that one, and then it goes up into the main filter and then down into the DI pod, and then that drops down into my brute bin, and that collects you get 100 liters in that. Let's see if it started dropping. There you go. And since I've changed all the media, I can get that down to 2 before I need to switch the switch for the DI resin. So once that's at 2, I'll switch the switches over and then push it through my DI resin. Okay, it's been on for a couple of minutes. It's at 5 at the moment. It will drop a little bit further than that. But now I'm gonna turn the valves, close that off, and then I can open the one up here for my DI. And if I switch the switch to what's coming out, it'd be 0. And I always run that at 0. And that will just fill up my big brute container. So there's 100 liters there, and that's at 50. And I mix my salt in here as well. Okay, and that's it for this one. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, as it does go a long way to help out the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.